Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm pleased to welcome our host for the session, Barry Coombs. I will pass it over to Barry.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you ever so much for joining us this morning. This morning, we're going to talk about a subject that is important to everybody. We all know about the rising risk of cyber attacks. Obviously, more recently, we've had Marks and Spencer's Co-op, and I understand Jaguar Land Rover are still trying to recover from the recent breaches that they've had. If we look at the NCSE and the NCSE 10 steps, those of you that have seen me present before, I like to refer people to it as an easy set of starting points to look at. We'll know how training and adoption is a really important part of protecting your organization, and creating relatable training that people actually enjoy doing can really be a difficult area. So today we are lucky enough to be joined by Javad Malik, who is, I believe, lead CISO advisor at KnowBe4, to take us through this subject. We're really honoured to have him as a speaker. He's a great passionate speaker that has a great background in cybersecurity. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass over to Javad. You might hear from me throughout the presentation, but otherwise we will hear at the end. Hopefully everyone can see the screen slides on screen before we pass over. Please post in the chat if there's any issues.
Cool. Thank you so much, Barry, and thank you everyone for joining. And I see some people are saying blank screen here in the chat. So
if you stop sharing and reshare, it might be enough to kick it in for everyone.
I had same but reconnected. Okay, let me just turn it off and on again, and then we shall.
That's what we do in technology, isn't it? It's the answer to everything.
Have
you tried turning it off and on again?
Okay, has that fixed it?
So I can see it in the chat. Can people now see the slides okay?
Yeah, so Dan, Steve, is that working? Yep.
There you go. Okay. Amanda can see it. Martin can see it.
Okay, that seems to be
fantastic.
Green cascade background. Fantastic. Okay, so this is great, and it shows that the chat's working. So at any time, if you want to contribute, ask a question, just throw it in the chat. My chat's on the other screen over there, so I might not see it, but Barry probably read it out, and feel free to interject as you see fit. So we can keep this a bit interactive and going along the way that benefits you the most. So this is my vanity slide. Just basically says I'm awesome, and we can move on. So let's understand the threat landscape, and depending on which report you pick up and read, they will tell you that the majority of breaches, anywhere from 60% to 95%, are as a result of social engineering. And when you look at the top three issues, it's social engineering, unpatched systems, and weak or compromised credentials. These are kind of like, well, when you look at pretty much any standard out there, any guidance or what have you, a lot of it just breaks down to basic cyber hygiene. Basic as in like fundamental, not that these are necessarily easy things to do. But, if you take things from a risk management perspective, focusing on these things, making it a priority makes sense. And focusing on the social engineering aspect is really, really important. So why does social engineering work? It feels like if you've been in the industry for any length of time, you feel like for the last 20, 30 years, we've been talking about this. But it works because people are people, and you can't really just download a patch for the human mind and suddenly behaviors change. Anyone that's tried to adopt any new behavior, like trying to lose weight or sign up to a gym or learn a new language or take up a new hobby, you know that motivation comes and goes, your commitment comes and goes. And depending on the frame of mind you're in, the circumstances, the weather plays a big impact, all these things, it makes you act in one way or another. And so criminals understand this, and they know that we have mental triggers, the fear, curiosity, authority, any emotional thing. And based on this, they can manipulate people to log in rather than to hack in technically. And Barry mentioned some of this before, but There's many criminal groups out there. Scattered Spider this year has risen in notoriety. And their main weapon is they just pick up the phone and they call people up and say, hello, I'm a colleague of yours. I've forgotten my password. Can you reset the password for me? And oftentimes these IT help desks are outsourced to a third party. Sometimes even they're internal, but the outsourced ones are the easiest ones because they don't know people internally necessarily. They don't know any changes sometimes. So they will reset a password and they're able to break in. And some of the ones, as Barry mentioned, are the likes of M&S and Co-op and Jaguar Land Rover and what have you. And I know what many of you might be thinking, like, if I ever received a phone call, there's no way I would fall for it. I know what my boss sounds like. I know the kind of the accents that we use and the terminology. But with all the technologies that we have out there with deepfakes and AI, it's really hard to tell who's who and what's what. So I got this video sent to me. I'll just play this quickly for you so you can just see.
I hope you're enjoying this presentation by my personal hero and inspiration, Javad Malik. Remember, you can never believe everything you see, hear, or read on the internet.
Yeah, so that's a nice bit of fan mail I received, and I hope you are enjoying the presentation. But um, you know, this is taken just from a still photograph. There's no animation. All the video and the animation and the lip movement is added later. And I use just a generic voice on this, but actually with just like a few seconds of audio of a real person, you can actually get a very, very good likeness of their audio as well. And we've seen this kind of technology being used a lot to maybe not in isolation, but when you layer it on with different things. So if someone sends you an email claiming to be from a partner, business partner, saying, hey, there's some issues. We might need to change our bank accounts. And then you receive a voice note on WhatsApp or something like that. That sounds like them repeating the same thing. So what happens is that it builds that credibility, it builds that urgency, and then you suddenly get a text message saying, hey, look, I've tried to get you an email, I tried to call, but there's some issues. Here's the new banking details. Can you please make sure the payment goes there? And we see lots and lots of organizations fall victim to these kinds of attacks. We see also criminals exploit major events whenever they happen. And there's a standard MO. There's a major event happens. They react and quickly, very quickly, within hours, they craft a whole campaign of phishing emails. And normally within the first day or 2 days, there's a huge spike in this nefarious activity. One of the ones that was quite lucrative was when Her Majesty passed away. Criminals released this NFT crypto coin that you could buy to commemorate Her Majesty. And this was quite interesting when you think about it. It pulls on two triggers or two emotions at the same time. One is you're sad and you want to do something to commemorate Her Majesty. The other thing it's pulling on is a bit of greed that, well, maybe if I buy this NFT, it's going to quadruple or 10x in value within the next year or 2 years or 5 years. So I could make a lot of money off this and I could retire early or pay off my mortgage. So people fueled by these two emotions, they went out and they spent a lot of money on these NFT coins, artifacts, and they lost all their money. But you see this happening time and time again, and we'll touch on some of those examples a bit further down. But next year is the Football World Cup. There's going to be a huge spike in last minute ticket deals. We can get you a flight to New York or New Jersey and tickets to the final special offer. Those kinds of things are going to be coming through. And what happens is that when emotions get involved, it bypasses our critical thinking abilities. And this is another tactic. If you can get people in an emotionally heightened state and then not give them a chance to pause and think about it, you can get them to do many, many things that they ordinarily wouldn't. So how do we know, or how do criminals find out how to target people? So sometimes with the, say, like the NFT scam, this one, it's just a general broad brush. You just send it out to everyone in the UK, and you know that there's going to be a certain percentage of people that are going to fall for it. But otherwise, we see a lot more targeting of actual individuals within scams. So especially in organizations. I was speaking to one organization not too long ago, and they're a technology provider, and they have offices in like several countries around the world. They're quite big, but they're not like a huge household name. And they acquired another company, and they said that within a couple of hours, 3 of their regional heads received voice notes on WhatsApp claiming to be from the CEO, saying that as part of this merger, they need to allocate some budget here and just transfer some money to what have you. And this is all part of some regulators issues and what have you, and have you not. And it was only because everyone was aware that these things happen, and they had training around this, that no one fell for it. Otherwise, you can see it's not even a huge company, but you can say the criminals are out there watching all these movements. They're watching for M&A activity. They're watching for any incident. And say, how can we latch onto that? From an individual perspective, I think we as people, we tend to overshare. We put out way more information than we need to. So criminals are very good at OSINT, or open source intelligent. It's just using what's publicly out there to gain information about others. And this is a great game you can play actually within your office, where you can pair up with people and you try to find as much information about the other as possible, just using publicly available information. So how can you start mapping out someone's digital footprint? Well, you start from their email. If you have someone's email address, you normally get their full name, you get their domain information, maybe there's some online documents. From their full name, you can normally find out their social media. Maybe you can find out their physical address, work history, any interest groups they're part of. From that, it just spreads out. So you can find family and friends. You can find any like company's house information they might have, if they maintain a blog, what have you. And then you can latch on to breach data. So every week, maybe, or every few weeks, you probably receive an email in one of your personal emails saying that, hey, this service that you signed up to, or this website that you're part of, it has been breached. And then they give you the standard breakdown that we take security very seriously. Nothing sensitive was taken other than your name, address, birth date, your shoe size, and your inside leg measurement. But other than that, everything is secure. But that all information is now out there, so that can be used to then find out more information about you. So you can then now find out, well, what's your username and what are some additional email addresses? Maybe you have a second address. So all these things add on, and you can find out a lot about people. Now, question I often get is like, where do they go for breach data? Breach data is normally sold on the dark web or these criminal forums. If you want to go to a really legitimate website, you can go to this website called haveibeenpawned.com. And what you do, you go to that website, and I solemnly declare this is a legit website, but you just put in your email address. And once you put in your email address, it will tell you if that email address has been in any breaches. And there's a nice timeline. It comes down with, so it says like in 2025, you shopped at, I don't know, mypetfood.com, and that got breached. So that data's there, and what have you. And this is always really eye-opening, because sometimes we either are not aware that services we use have been breached, or we just ignore the emails as standard notification. So if any of you ever want to take a look at that website, I strongly recommend it, and maybe get your friends, family to check it out again. The other thing on that is, if you use the same password across other websites, it's a really good reminder to, well, maybe you should change at least those passwords that have been in breaches. Ideally, you should be using separate passwords for different websites. The question is how. I can't remember that many. A password manager is will normally save the passwords for you, but it's a good website. It's a good exercise just to go through. Beyond that, I think we give away so much information. I'll open it up to the chat now. If I say, like, I see that on the back of a car, and I get it, this is most likely an American. Well, okay, that's an assumption I'm making. But what kind of things can you gather if you're a criminal and you want to send a phishing email or something to the post to the people that live at this address? What kind of things what kind of assumptions would you make about them, and what kind of scams would you try to pull on them? If feel free to chime in on the yeah, exactly, Megan. Thanks. Pop in the chat what information you can gather from this image. That's a far more eloquent way of putting it, isn't it? That's great.
I'm sure Dan Smith will be typing something in now. I can see he's in the chat. I think it is interesting to see how when you stop and look, there's lots of ways that people can get so much insight about you these days, isn't it? I've never seen this one before, but I really like it. There you go. You've got a couple of responses there.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Start with the family hook. Yes. Big family probably likes holidays. Yeah. Maybe they even post their holiday plans online, or when they're away, they update their social media, so that's a good time to maybe rob their house. They've probably got a PlayStation. They probably got some expensive kids stuff in there. They look like they invest in their kids with ballet classes, baseball classes can't be cheap. He has a pet, a dog. Yes, absolutely. So some pet food offers can go through, or maybe you can go disguised as a dog grooming service or a dog walking service just to gain access to the house. MOT is about to run out. Yes, maybe you can definitely find that out. Absolutely. Offer things for the kids. Yeah. It's all these things. See, as soon as you start thinking like a criminal, it's great. So see, suddenly everyone over here is like, we've established a criminal mastermind. We've taken a poor innocent family, and now we're all coming up with devious ways of how to breach them. We're not trained criminals, at least. I hope none of us are trained criminals. But it's a really good way of seeing how criminals, they just need a little bit of information and they can deduce a whole lot of information from it. It reminds me, there was a gentleman, an older gentleman, a retired pensioner. He used to live in a place, and his place got broken into a couple of times. It's probably not a very nice area, but he went to a trophy shop and bought a couple of karate trophies, like black belt or like tournament winners, and he placed them sort of like in the window bay, and he wasn't burgled after that. Whether or not there was a direct correlation or not, but it's things like that. We're always giving out signals. Okay, next one. Let's go to the next one. What can you deduce about the person that stays in this room? If you were to send them something, what would you say is a good way? It's a gamer, yeah, definitely looks like a gamer. A teenager, a memorabilia collector. Has a Twitch account. I didn't see that. Where's that? Well, possibly they possibly have a Twitch account. I don't know. I don't even know what Twitch likes. Marvel. That's the first thing that jumped out at me. So I saw the Iron Man. I saw the comic books in there, the Marvel comic books and what have you. So yeah, let's maybe a Comic-Con themed phishing email would be good. There's all these things. YouTube account, possibly. Yep. Although they're missing the ring light. They need the ring light to be a YouTuber, obviously, and a microphone. But But yeah, we jumped to this assumption that it's a teenage boy, likes Marvel, likes gaming, all these sorts of things. So these are all the things that we could probably, although it is deceptively clean for a teenager's room, that's the only thing that threw me off when I saw this. But solve your Rubik's cubes in 10 seconds. Yeah, are they a Rubik? Yeah, there was a Rubik's cube. Yes, it's down there on the shelf. Very well spotted. So there's lots and lots of things we just pick up. There's actually, and this reminds me, there's on MTV, there used to be a show called Room Raiders, and that was where they used to take three people, or used to take people to three different people's bedrooms. The person was taken out of the room and they weren't given time to clean it up or anything. And you were taken to see three rooms, and then you had to choose based on the rooms that you saw which one you want to take out on a date. It was a bit like blind date, but you just used to see their bedrooms and deduce. But it just goes to show how we're very good at quick at judging, but how much information we actually leave out there for people to find out about us. So if we get back to phishing simulations or phishing emails and what have you, there are some key indicators of malicious emails. There's urgent language, there's suspicious links, there's authority, sometimes it's an unknown or an unexpected sender. The main things I think to watch out for are, is this an expected email? Like, is this a usual form of email, even if it's from your boss and what have you? Is it expected? Is there an emotion being triggered there? So is it like, do this now or you might lose your job or what have you? And the third thing is there a sense of urgency? Is there a time constraint? Because very, very rarely will you see a criminal say, please, can you make this payment to this dodgy bank account whenever you want, within the next 14 days. They'll never say that. They'll always say, do it in the next hour or something bad is going to happen. And historically, we used to say, look out for bad spelling and grammar and all that kind of stuff. But now, again, with AI, it's so easy for anyone to generate phishing emails in any language, and it passes all of those tests. Other than emails, we see a lot of SMS or text-based scams coming through. Many of you probably have received some sort of like, oh, your Amazon parcel is on its way, or it's been delayed, and it's what have you. And the funny thing about these ones is this is kind of like how the legitimate ones look as well. Oftentimes, I'll get a text message. Just the other day, I got one. There's a message from your driver saying, I'm on my way. And I was like, that's really strange. I've never seen that. But then I went into the Amazon app and it was there as well. So, go to the source rather than clicking any links within the messages, I suppose, is the thing. But there's a whole variety of them. There's a whole bunch of, in the US, there's been a whole bunch of toll scams that have been going on, but there's also things like, we've detected suspicious logins to your PayPal. And as you can see, this text message, link is PayPal loginverify.com, which is not a PayPal domain, but we know that because we work around with technology all the time, but many people don't. You get emails coming through with all these weird attachment types coming in. But again, we have to think about it. Sometimes legitimate emails don't look too different from this. So you've got something from DocuSign, from HR, your updated terms and conditions, that it comes through looking a bit like this sometimes. Your account has been restricted. Please verify. And oh no, my Capital One account I don't want, or my American Express, whatever it might be. And unless you're looking at the actual email address itself, you probably will miss that. So deepfake and AI manipulation is a common thing. We saw the video earlier that I made, just a short example, but it's not the sophistication of the technology, it's the timing and the messaging and the emotion that it triggers that really gets to people. So imagine there's a country in which there's been a flood, a natural disaster in some part of the world. you can generate, and this is an AI image, it's not a real image, but look at how many heartstrings it's tugging on. There's that crying baby, there's a little puppy. How can you say, you're not moved by that? And sometimes this is a ploy to get people to donate to a fictitious charity or something. Other times it's to spread misinformation and propaganda. Our government has failed us again. And even though I've just told you this is a deep fake and this is not real, just looking at that and reading that makes me want to demonstrate against whichever government is responsible for that, because this is completely unacceptable. And this is how misinformation spreads, but this is how it's a really good example, I find, of how emotions take over and people, fall victim. And I've spoken a lot about how there's a lot of urgency and emotion involved in a lot of things, but that doesn't always mean that every attack is a immediate thing. There's more and more examples of what I call the long con. So here's an example. Someone received a WhatsApp message saying, "Hi, is this Anna?" "No, this isn't Anna. You've got a wrong number." And it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. My assistant must have put the number in incorrectly." And then they start a conversation, and it seems very, very benign. And you see, this goes on for a long time. What are you into? What are you liking? What this, that, the other. There's good morning messages and what have you. And then it gets to the kicker way afterwards saying, yes, they made a plan of $150,000 and earn more than 20,000. And then there's a screenshot for added authenticity. And at this point, because you've been talking to this person for such a long time, you've built up that trust. And there are farms out there where people sit there and they engage in these sort of things all day long, that they can then say, okay, well, tell me, let me in on the secret. Okay, you can do this, but you need to invest 100,000 and you probably make 20,000 in a day. Here's a bank account transfer you 100,000 to, and you will never see it again. In cold hindsight, it seems like, why would anyone ever hand over that amount of money to a complete stranger? But once people are involved in this, they really get caught up in it. And it's become so difficult because emotionally you're like, no, I know this person, I've invested in this friendship, relationship, and, there's no way that this can be fake. And we see this actually, the most common ways we see this in romance scams. So we see stories like this coming out where someone thought that Jennifer Aniston was in love with them, and they needed help paying their Apple bill. But it's not just Jennifer Aniston. People have fallen in love with Brad Pitt. And the thing with these, you don't even need to create very realistic AIs or something. There's all these photos available, so you just send a photo and caption it with whatever and what have you. There was also this case last year or earlier this year, last year, I think, where there was a pensioner in Japan, and she fell in love with an astronaut who needed money to purchase more oxygen. And so she was sending this person money, and it was really crafty because he would sometimes do a video call with her, but it would only last 15 minutes because that's the only time he was within satellite range to do a video call. So he kept it very short, kind of believable and what have you, or an audio call. And he got her strung along for a very long time. And again, we might not fall for romance scams, we might not fall for the I'm your friend scam, but there's other scams out there, such as like, hey, I'm a recruiter, I'm an executive headhunter, should I say, and I'm looking for talented people like you to place into your next big role, paying six figures and with benefits and everything and what have you. And I can string people along for a long time like that, and then eventually, land with the whatever the payload is. So I think what we can all agree on is that we never really know what's going on with the internet. It's anyone can be anyone or anything on the internet, and it's up to the audience to decide what's real. So the question then is like, well, how do we decide what's real? How can we defend ourselves? This is like all feels like a lot. There's all these angles, there's all these AI, there's so much going on. And this is where it's important to realize we're not playing a one-on-one game. Yeah. It's not the fact that there's one scammer out there trying to scam one person. Like we saw with the long cons and what have you, there's normally a team. There's a whole call center out there. There's a whole infrastructure targeting individuals. So what we need to do is we need to also realize this isn't a solo sport. We have the support of our colleagues, of our friends, of our organization with us. And if we work together, we can build a security culture. A security culture is far stronger than a security individual. And that's why I say security is a culture. It's not a department. It's so while you might have someone responsible for cybersecurity within your organization, it's their job to help facilitate and provide tools and enable that culture, but we all work together to build that culture. Now, how do you facilitate that? How do you build that? How do you do it? I think one of the best lessons I was taught was, well, think like a marketer. How does a marketer create a need or a demand or create a fad around something or what have you? It's like you have to capture people's attention. You have to create that emotional connection. You have to reinforce the repetition, and you have to really celebrate the wins. You have to engage in that positive reinforcement of for people. And that's where maybe historically, if you were exposed to phishing simulations or training material, it felt like very much an authoritarian one-way flow of traffic. Like, here are the do's and don'ts, abide by these or you will get into trouble. And that just creates a training, or that creates a hierarchical imbalance of power. So what we need to do, we need to create an environment where everyone feels empowered. Some of the things to bear in mind is, like, just because someone's aware, it does not mean that they care. It's a bit like if I'm driving down the road and I see a sign that says 50, okay, now I'm aware that the speed limit is 50. Unless I actually slow down or to 50, that information does not mean anything. So unless I'm incentivizing somehow, and of course there's things like threats, like speed cameras, but there's also like those other cameras that you have, not speed cameras, but you have the speed displays that show up, where when you're driving through, it displays your speed on it. And then if you're over the limit, it gives an angry face or a sad face. And if you're below or at the speed limit, it gives you a smiley face. And those have been shown actually in many studies to be more effective than a speed camera, because a speed camera is kind of like a confrontational relationship where slow down, or I'm going to take a photo, send you a fine, and maybe you get penalty points. But it's the part where you got a smiley or a sad face is kind of, hey, let's work together here, and that has shown that then people as a culture, collectively, they will be more likely to abide by the speed limit. Balance out your training and awareness. So training is like, here are 5 things to look out for, and do this, this, this. And awareness is the more broader kind of, well, here are some things out there, and here are some good behaviors to adopt. And so blend that formal learning with informal, or maybe some more engaging content. Don't try and boil the whole ocean at once. Focus on a few critical behaviors. So what is the most risky behavior in your organization today? Is it that people are choosing weak passwords? Is it that people are sending third parties confidential information via email or an insecure service? Whatever that might be, focus on those. Build out the right tools, and give people the right capabilities to do it. Number 4, enable that easy reporting. Easy reporting, I think, is critical. If people, if it's easy for them to report something or have something looked at, they're less likely to go ahead and try to make their own decisions, because we're not trying to make, and we never will make, everyone a security expert, but we're trying to give them the right tools to flag when something seems suspicious. And finally, just remember that it is a long-term process. Quick fixes are very difficult, and they won't last. but we want to get it's a bit like New Year's. Everyone's like, oh, I'm going to join the gym. So January is like packed at the gym, and then from February onwards, the numbers start dwindling. And come November, I'm sitting here thinking, why am I still overweight? Well, because I try to go for a quick fix and not necessarily like plan things out over the whole year. If I just go back to enable easy reporting, and reporting is probably one of the most powerful things you can do for your staff in your organization. And there's a really good story about that. There was a gentleman by the name of Victor Lustig. I say gentleman in the loosest terms. He was a con man. He was in the 1920s in Paris, and he had a scheme. He thought, like, let's try to sell the Eiffel Tower. He had no authority to do so, but he knew that people were gullible. So he invited a closed consortium of business owners and said, look, the French government doesn't want to maintain the upkeep of the Eiffel Tower. It's ugly. It doesn't blend in with the rest of the architecture. So who wants to buy the Eiffel Tower? And so he made a very compelling case. And there was someone by the name of Andre Poisson who said, here's 70,000 francs and sign that landmark over to me. So Victor gladly took his 70,000 francs. He fled Paris, and Andre was the proud owner on paper of the Eiffel Tower. Of course, he then realized he wasn't really the owner of the Eiffel Tower. And then he felt what many people feel when they fall victim to a scammer. He felt a deep sense of shame, yeah, and embarrassment. So what did he do? He did absolutely nothing. He just stayed quiet. And he said, I've lost the 70,000. There's no way I'm getting it back. He goes, if I go to the police and to report this, they're just going to laugh at me. So he just kept quiet. Victor, who had fled Paris, was laying low for a while. And he thought, well, there's no wanted posters out for me. No one's trying to arrest me. He stayed quiet. So he returned to Paris and he resold the Eiffel Tower to another business person before then fleeing the country. So it just goes to show that had Andre reported it, had the police not made, well, he assumed they would have made fun of him, but, had they not made fun of him, if it was a safe place for him to report, they probably would have had, been able to put out some wanted posters. They might have been able to arrest Victor, and he wouldn't have been able to go back and repeat the process time and time again. And that's why I think I love that example as an example of why reporting is so important. So how do we go about building this culture? It's the ABC. You start with awareness, tell people, recognize what the threats are. And then the B is behavior. Well, okay, you recognize what it is. What do you want to do about it? This is the behavior we want. Report or don't disengage or follow this process, whatever that might be. And then that will lead on to, once individual behavior spreads out to collective behavior, that will build your culture in your organization. A few quick tips, I suppose, to build culture, and this is something from different organizations I've learned, is have clear communication, clear, consistent messaging, a bit like that, going back to that marketing thing. Who remembers like 10,000 songs in your pocket, from Apple? It's very clear, very memorable. Have that continuous learning, have it repeated, have it regular, and have it personalized for every individual. Reward people who do the good thing, have the metrics there to help you get that leadership buy-in. So how does this look in reality? And I think one thing we sometimes forget when we look at a culture change is a lot of it is focused on the people aspect, which it's a critical part. It's a people-centric problem, absolutely. But that's not to say it's an either or challenge between technology, or do we invest in technology or do we invest in training in people? Both of them are needed. And if we look at it from a human risk management perspective, I'll break it down into 4 steps, and I call this the deep steps because the acronym spells out deep, where the first D is defend. So how do we limit attacks to the workforce. So if we think about, say, like phishing emails, we can have email filters, gateways, cloud email security solutions, all those kinds of things in place that can detect anything that looks a bit dodgy and block it. So the less things that land in your inbox or your user's inbox, the less chance they are of falling victim to it. So that's the D, limit the attacks. The second piece is educate them. This is where you're raising that awareness and make it relevant to them, make it timely, make it engaging, all those kinds of things. And all of this is possible now. You can do it so that as soon as someone engages in a particular activity, that can kick off an education piece. So if I book a work trip, that could kick off something in the back end, and I suddenly receive the training, say, hey, when you travel, here's some security tips. So use a VPN, never leave your laptop out of your site, all those kinds of things, whatever. The second E is for empowerment. And it's all well and good educating people, but we need to empower them to act upon that, give them the tools. We say report something if it's dodgy. How do we empower them to report something? If that empowerment means, well, log onto this system, raise a ticket, it's going to take you 10 minutes. That's not really empowerment. That's just bureaucracy. Make it really easy. Say like, oh, you find this email dodgy, just forward the email here or click this button here and someone will take care of it for you. So, and that's what will create the culture. And finally, the P is for protect. And what that is all about is we need to recognize that despite us trying to defend some of these attacks, some will get through, despite the education empowerment, mistakes will happen. Human error will occur. Sometimes that's because someone's been socially engineered. Sometimes it's because people aren't aware. Sometimes it's because people are just trying to get their job done very efficiently, so they're taking some shortcuts willingly. Sometimes someone is a malicious insider. So bear all of these things in mind and have then some protection in place. So maybe some orchestration, some EDR, some what have you, some isolation capabilities, so that one error does not turn into a full-blown incident. You can scan this very trustworthy QR code. I've been told it's not dodgy. I've not tried it myself. But yeah, there's a link in the chat. I think Megan's just put it there. But if you want a demo of KnowBe4, please do scan it, get in touch, ask any questions, because yeah, we have a bunch of these capabilities that I've spoken about, like the nudges, the just-in-time training, the personalized stuff, the education, the whole building out plan. Everything is kind of in there. I'm not a salesperson, so I don't do demos and stuff, but ask someone for a demo and they can take you through it and give you some info. But if you want to get in touch with me, tell me how wonderful I am, stroke my ego a bit, or just tell me that, hey, that was terrible. Please do feel free to drop me a note, connect with me on LinkedIn or what have you. But other than that, I'd like to thank you all for your time and attention. And Barry, if you have, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, thank you ever so much for that. It was really helpful. There's actually a few of those slides there that I copied and sent to our Security Council whilst you were presenting, which is quite interesting because I'm in a glass-fronted room and I saw them open on the screens in front of me. So really actionable information there from that perspective. If anyone would like to buy the Clifton Suspension Bridge, I've got a good deal going on it at the moment. So I'm sure we can come up with a deal there. I think a standout area for me is what's your security culture? That's a journey that Cascade's been going on. I mentioned our Security Council. This is something that we formed just over a year ago, and for a company that was already quite secure, Cyber Essentials Plus, ISO 27001, you wouldn't believe the inroads that we've made to improve our security and discuss how we can make sure that the staff are more included inside of that. Javad, something that really resonated with me was the leadership buy-in. Change starts at the top, and we see that across the board, not just security, but adoption of projects, AI and things like this, people being able to demonstrate that the leadership are bought into it. One of the things that I've been doing recently is security cybersecurity tabletop exercises with boards. And we actually did this with the board at Cascade, where we went through a cybersecurity simulation. We've created one that was quite entertaining, but equally very realistic and grounded in some of the attacks that have happened recently. And again, even at Cascade, the people that are outside of the technical group then were able to raise questions that have meant that we've changed how our incident response would be. So making sure that you're finding ways to engage with people. I love that relationship to marketing. That's something that I've always said. At the end of the day, security is like marketing. You've got to grab someone's attention. You've got to convince them to do something. If only we could probably convince some of these people that are doing the security attacks to move to marketing, our businesses would probably really benefit from it, but probably a lot more lucrative selling the Eiffel Tower, to use your story there. And then the technology and training piece. So really good. From my perspective, KnowBe4 is a fantastic partner of Cascade. We've rolled their tools out internally to make sure that we are engaging with the team. I believe training should be small and relevant. We need to grab their attention very quickly. Undoubtedly, we've all got those mandatory training that we have to do every year. That there's probably a cybersecurity module, and how many of us just keep on clicking next or keep on answering until we pass that? We've got to find ways to train people that is going to capture their attention. We've got to, I think, to the point of encourage a culture that people know they're not going to be scared about what happens if they do think something has gone wrong. We need to capture it wherever it's happening from that perspective. So thank you ever so much for the presentations today. I've really enjoyed the content. Judging by the amount of you that have stayed on to listen to me summing up there, thank you very much. I've got all of your offers about the Clifton Suspension Bridge. I particularly liked the Freddo, so maybe that's the one that I'll go for. It is a good chocolate bar. But thank you ever so much. I really thank everyone for joining. Javad, I thank you for presenting. We'll look forward to doing something with you in the future, and we'll speak to you all soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.